Bhagavata Umstvang tato viprata Tasmai dvaidika dharma marga parata Vidvatvamasmat param Atmanatma vivechanam svanubhavo Brahmatmana samstiti Muktirno shata janma koti sukritai Punyair vina labhyate. Janturnang, among the living creatures, Nara Janma, human birth, Durlabham, rare, Ataha, further, Pungstvang, manhood, Tataha, thereupon, Viprata, Brahmanhood, Sattvic life, Tasmat, thereafter, Vaidika Dharma Marga Gaparata, steadiness on the spiritual path enjoined by the Vedas, Vidvatvam, correct knowledge of the scriptures, Asmat, from this, Param, higher, Atmanatma Vivechanam, discrimination of the real from the unreal, Svanubhavaha, personal experience, Brahmahatmana Samstitihi, established in identity with Brahman, Muktir, liberation, Na'u, not, Shatajanma Koti Supritai Punyai, merits of 100 crores of lives lived with intelligence, Vina, without, Labhyate, gained. For those who take birth, birth as a human being is difficult to get. More difficult than that is birth as a male. And more than that is birth as a brāhmaṇa. Because it is so, steadfastness in pursuing the path of dharma prescribed in the Vedas must be got by persistent effort. Then, securing the requisite learning, discrimination between the self and the not-self must be made, and also perfect experience. Liberation, permanent being as Brahman, cannot be realized without meritorious deeds done in hundreds of crores of births.
Namaste. So, this series is now a course on YouTube, along with the Atma Bodha series. They just started this new category of playlists, so I'm designating this series as a course. Now let's see what happens. I'm not sure what all features they're going to have. Anyway, this verse is the grand summation. It's written in a very grand formal style, heroic style. It's written in Sardula Vikritam Chandas, which is highly heroic, grand, and dramatic. So this verse is the summary of the entire contents of the book. There's a similar verse in Bhagavad Gita, right in the beginning. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyan anashocyas tvam prajñavadangscha bhashase gatasung agatasungscha nanushochati pandita. Thou grievest for those who should not be grieved for. Thou speakest like wise men, but the actually learned, those who have attained atmajnana, are not concerned either with the living or the dead. The point there is that if you are really self-realized, you don't make a distinction between the living and the dead. Like Sri Krishna points out in a later shloka, those who are alive now are certainly going to die. And those who are dead now are certainly going to be reborn. So why get all hung up about? Just relax, Arjuna, do your duty and fight. So similarly, in this verse of Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, that Śaṅkara is giving the whole contents of the book. You want to be free from suffering? You want to attain Atma Jnana? You want that self-realization that gives you the same viewpoint as Brahman, that lets you realize your identity with Brahman? Then you have to meet these criteria. You have to meet these qualifications. And indeed, the whole first part of this book is only about that. What Atma Bodha disposed of in 2 or 3 shlokas, the whole first 70 shlokas or so of Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ is about that, attaining the qualifications for self-realization. So let's look into this verse in a more detailed way and extract these qualifications that are given in this grand summation of the entire work. Now, first of all, if one is to embark on the path of self-realization, study of the Vedanta Shastra and so forth, one must be an astika. What is an astika? An astika is a person who believes in the Atman being separate from the body, not subject to death, and which is reborn in further incarnations due to the action of the law of karma. Because if you don't believe in the separation of the Atma from the body, in other words, if you think the body is the self, then that's it. YOLO, as they say today. You only live once, then it's over. Huh? Nonsense, idiots. But anyway, that you won't care to acquire spiritual merit because you don't believe that the soul is different from the body. That's a very stupid point of view, but we see lots and lots of people have it today. This is because of the pernicious influence of science, atheism, and relative morality. But the Shastras give the absolute morality. What is dharma? And what is adharma? What practices lead to self-realization? And what practices lead to hellish existence in the future? So if you want to increase your quality of life, if you want a better class of body even, you have to follow dharma. And the scriptures are the only source that reveals that dharma. You cannot reveal dharma by a process of philosophical speculation. Then all you'll get is simply morality. And morality is relative. What's moral here today now is going to be immoral in 16th century Germany, for example, or 7th century India. So morality changes along with the times. Dharma does not. Dharma is absolute knowledge. It's the first absolute knowledge that we come across in our study of the Vedic scriptures. Yama niyama. Do this, don't do that. Do this, chant mantras, study Vedas, perform ceremonies, worship the gods. Don't do this, taking intoxication, eating meat, having sex life. That's very, very simple and straightforward, but who today can follow it? Only someone with a strong desire for liberation, who wants to end the suffering, who wants to get out of this pallor of material existence. That's why we began the study of Śaṅkarācārya's Prakarana Grantha with the Atma Bodha, because that deals with dharma versus adharma. And this book is going to go into that too, much more deeply. There's a shloka: a wise man does not perform actions ordained in the Shastras without the knowledge and belief that the Atman is distinct from the body and has an otherworldly connection. In other words, the very performance of dharma, Nyama and niyama, what is to be done, what is not to be done, implies recognition of the immortality of the soul and its difference from the body, and the opportunity given through the Shastras of an immortal life. So the astika is the person who believes in this, who accepts it as the reality, even if we cannot see it yet directly. It's like time will come when you will see it directly, but in the beginning you can't. So the astika is one who has shraddha. He has faith in the scriptures and the instructions of the Guru. Shubhairapnoti devatvang nishidhair naraking tanum ubhabhyang punapapabhyang manusham labate visha. By good deeds one attains the state of a deva. As a result of doing prohibited actions, one obtains, in spite of oneself, a body designed to suffer the tortures of hell. By a mixture of good and bad deeds, one takes birth as a human being. How can we explain the difference of the quality of human births that we can see, even on this level? Some people are born, as they say, with a silver spoon in their mouth. Others are born in poverty and squalor. It's a different kind of body, different circumstances. You cannot equate them. You cannot say they are the same. They are obviously different. Why are they different? Because of karma. The person who is born in a rich family has done many meritorious deeds in their past lives. And the person who is born in poverty to suffer has done negative things in their previous lives. That's why they appear in that kind of circumstance. So the law of karma is controversial in the sense that many people think that God is prejudiced, that he is angry at the people who are fallen, and so he gives them low-class bodies like that, and that he is pleased with those who worship him, and so gives them opulence and so on, intelligence, etc. But this is not true. Vaishamya nayagrinena sapekshatvat tata hidarshati na karma vibhagat iti chenna anaditvat upapadyate chap upalabhyate cha. The Lord cannot be reproached with inequality of dispensation and cruelty on account of his regarding merit and demerit, for so Scripture declares. If it be objected that the Lord's having regard to merit and demerit is impossible on account of the non-distinction of merit and demerit previous to the first creation, we refute the objection on the ground of the world being without a beginning. The beginningless of the world recommends itself to reason and is seen from the scriptures. So if the world is beginningless, if karma, merit and demerit, is also beginningless, then the karmi, the person who bears that karma, must also be beginningless. Starting to get it now? So no one can say that the Lord is prejudiced, that he is biased in any way, pro or con the living beings. They create their own karma by their actions and attitudes, and thus they are born in higher or lower circumstances. But they're also possible to move up from wherever they are to a higher state, to improve their status of birth by dharmic actions. And those are given in the scriptures. So the Lord has provided the scriptures in order to facilitate their spiritual advancement. How can he be said to be biased? He's impartial. He is equal to all. That's also stated in Bhagavad Gita. So it's up to us. We are the agents of our own salvation or downfall. And that is the nature of action and free will. So we can choose by our actions, even while suffering from past birth's previous karma. We can choose to take our next birth in a much better situation by performance of the dharma given in the scriptures. Now, the next criterion given by Śaṅkarācārya is that it is a boon, it is a blessing, a rare opportunity to be born as a human being. There is a shloka, I think it's in Mahabharata, that in the vast Pacific Ocean, there is a plank from a shipwreck floating on the waves, and the plank has a knothole in the end of it. And simultaneously, a great tortoise living on the bottom of the ocean that comes up only once in 10 years for a breath of air is coming up in the middle of this vast landscape of ocean waves and wind and cloud, and happens to surface just with its head through that knothole. What are the odds? Similarly are the odds of taking human birth on planet Earth. Look at the human species is only of several, 3 or 4 different kinds. But the animal species and other species of life are millions and millions. So what are the odds? And among those tiny odds of getting a human birth, what are the odds of getting a male human body? And even more particularly, what are the odds of getting a brāhmaṇa body? Now, we're not talking about birth in a caste family, because that's not actually the Vedic view. The Vedic view is that one qualifies for one varna or another by quality and works. Guna karma vibhagasaha. So in that way, one who has intelligence and who acts as a brāhmana is then qualified to study the Vedanta. One who simply takes birth in a certain family and wears as upavitam, sacred thread, that doesn't mean anything if they're not acting as a brāhmana. And what is that? Brahmanasya tu deho yang nopa bhogaya kalpate iha kleshaya mohate pretyananta sukhaya cha. This body of the brahmana is not intended for enjoyment. In this life, it is for the endurance of great hardship, and hereafter for attaining endless bliss. Sannyasa, leading to the realization of the ultimate Vaishnavam Padam, is the dharma only of the brahmanas, who are born out of the face of the Supreme Purusha. That dharma is not prescribed for the kshatriyas and vaishyas, who come out from the arms and thighs of the Purusha, respectively. So sannyasa is not for everyone. Sannyasa, or renunciation of material actions and qualities, is only for those who are actual brahmanas, practicing brahmanas, not just brahmanas in name only, real brahmanas. So they alone are eligible for liberation. Doesn't matter where they're born, but if they qualify themselves the Lord will provide the direction, the guidance, the shastras, or the teachers that will bring them to ultimate liberation. Tasmad vaikadharma mamagra parata, being inclined to the path of dharma prescribed in the Vedas. That's the nature of a real brahmana. So, such a person is inclined towards scriptures and meditation and so forth naturally. They're going to find it even without a teacher, by sheer willpower, intention, and dedication. Dharanat dharma mityahur dharmo dharayate prajaha yasya dharana sangyukta sadharma iti nishchayaha. They say it is called dharma because it upholds. Dharanat. Dharma sustains all beings. That which truly has the power to uphold, that indeed is dharma. That's why in this verse, Śaṅkarācārya says, Vaidika dharma marga parata. Although Vaidika karma comes under dharma, it's necessary to have good karma, but it's not sufficient to attain liberation. Only Vaidika dharma is powerful enough to bring us out from material identification and uncover the real knowledge which is latent in our being. It's covered over now by what? Papa, sins, negative actions, adharma. So in order to remove that covering, we have to perform extensive pious activities that will reveal the substrate of eternal knowledge within. That is the performance of sadhana. Yo brahmanam vididhati purvam, yo vai vedangsha prahinoti tasmai. He who in the beginning created Brahma, and he who then bestowed the Vedas upon him. Dvavima vatarpanitau yatra veda pratishtitaha, pavriti lokshano dharma, nivritischa prakirtitaha. Two paths are laid down in the Vedas. Dharma is described as being of the nature of pravriti, engaged action, or of nivriti, renunciation. So the Dharma, and this is also discussed eloquently and deeply in Bhagavad Gita, the Dharma can be performed in two ways. By engaged action, that is karma yoga, following the Vedic prescriptions in family life, and by the nivriti, renunciation, dharma performed in the renounced life, sannyas. And it is the latter which leads to liberation, moksha. It is very rare, it's possible, but very rare for one in householder life to attain moksha, self-realization. But it is easy for the sannyasi. I remember my Adi Guru one time said, you want Brahman liberation? It's very easy. All you have to do is remain brahmachari. In other words, celibate. By celibacy alone, Brahman realization is attained. Now then, there's another summation of these same qualities given by Śaṅkarācārya. By the brāhmaṇa, after Upanayana, the Vedas should be learnt and recited every day. The kramas prescribed in them should be performed properly. By such performance, the grace of God should be secured. All thought of enjoying the fruits of actions should be abandoned. Refraining from all sinful actions, one should constantly think of evils attendant on the quest for worldly pleasure. The desire to realize the Atman should be assiduously cultivated. Quickly getting out of one's home, one should resort to the company of the good. Devotion to God must be firmly established in the mind. The qualities of shanti, mind control, danti, sense control, uparati, detachment, titiksha, enduring the dualities of heat and cold, pleasure and pain, etc., without extraneous aids, shraddha, faith, and samadhi, concentration, should be cultivated, and all entangling karmas should be quickly given up. So these are the same qualities that were discussed in the Atma Bodha series. But in this series, they're going to be discussed and analyzed much more deeply. And we're going to find out exactly how to perform them, how to practice them, and make them part of our being. Now, there are a few more qualities that Śaṅkara gives in this verse. Yadeva vidyaya karoti shraddhayo panishada tadeva virya vataram bhavati. Whatever is done with the knowledge of the meaning of the mantras, with an earnestness both of faith and insight into them, is more efficacious than what is done without these accompaniments. So, vidvatamam means scholarship, means studying the scriptures closely, deeply, going back to the original Sanskrit, getting the deep meaning of all the words, looking up the words in the Sanskrit dictionary, going deep into their philosophical background, and finally, understanding them in such a way that one can put them into action in his life. And not just theory, not just philosophy, but actual becoming, actual being of that nature. And the next prerequisite for liberation is viveka, atmanatman vivechanam, discrimination between the self and the not self. Then there's svanubhavaha. That means direct recollection of Brahman based on realization. This is the penultimate stage. When one sits down nididhyasana to meditate on the nature of Brahman and become fixed in that state of consciousness. And the final item is brahmanatmana samstitihi, becoming fixed in Brahman, so that it doesn't even require an effort to remember Brahman. One is engaged with Brahman all the time. I think one of the best ways to accomplish this is to teach Brahman dharma, the moksha dharma, the Vedanta dharma, that final conclusion of the Vedas that is the perfect means of liberation. And that, in summary, is the entire contents of Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ.
Om Tat Sat, Om Shakti.